Hey everybody, Victory Nub, it's me in the flesh. We're going to be doing something a little bit different for the video this week. We're actually going to be doing an unboxing. Now, this channel is dedicated to the cataloging and review of older games than most of the channels you'll see on YouTube. If you're doing an unboxing for an older video game, odds are you're seriously devaluing the game. So we don't have a lot of opportunity to actually do that on the channel. However, I did recently get my hands on a Polymega. Polymega is a modular retro console that allows you to play games for a variety of different consoles. Out of the box, the base unit allows you to play games for the PlayStation 1, the Sega CD, the Sega Saturn, the TurboGrafx CD. There's a couple of arcade CD-ROM consoles that you can do, and I think all of the PAL versions and Japanese versions of the ones that I already mentioned all work on the Polymega. So you have a lot of different consoles that you can already play just using the base unit. However, they did make other modules that allow you to play games for the regular Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the TurboGrafx 16, the Sega Genesis, and most recently the Nintendo 64. I did pick up modules for all of the ones that I had games for. Unfortunately, we don't have any games for the TurboGrafx 16 that I'll be able to look at because I never owned one, so we can't do that one. However, we will be able to look at future episodes of the channel using the Polymega, but I thought it'd be fun to actually unbox that, plus a little surprise game that I had picked up a repro cart for that we'll take a look at in a future episode of Rental Regrets. Full disclosure before we start the unboxing, my two favorite words on the channel, full disclosure. This video is not sponsored in any way. I did not receive any money from Playmaji, who actually made the Polymega. So this video is going to feature my completely unfiltered thoughts on the experience of getting this console and then actually testing it. That said, right up front, I have a very serious issue with the way that they handled the sale of this product to me. I initially purchased the Polymega in April of 2022. I did not receive the Polymega until March of 2024. It took them a year and 11 months to deliver the device to me. That is unacceptable no matter what you're buying. 2 years is way too long to wait to get a purchase of any kind. In particular, a console device that is not even for a current system. This is for older games, and it took almost 2 years to get it. When I initially bought it, they had a little disclaimer on the page that said that because of chip shortages, which, you know, during COVID times, that was a thing that people had to get used to, I wasn't supposed to be getting the package until the end of third quarter 2022. So about 6 months. I did not contact them in any way. I accepted that, you know, there's chip shortages. Things are probably going to take a little longer to get to me. But I did contact them by email in September of 2023, so a year and 5 months after I had made my initial purchase, and said, hey guys, it's been a year and 5 months. What's the deal? I understand we had some chip shortages, but this is ridiculous. I'm still waiting for my purchase. They didn't respond to that email until February of 2024. 5 months after I sent an email asking where is my device before they sent anything, and it really didn't answer the question. It just said, keep an eye out for an email in the future when we're going to send something. And then another 3 weeks later, they sent me an email saying that it was going to be delivered. They really did a terrible job, not only with the transaction, just getting it to me, but also the customer service part. Communicating with your customer, saying, hey, look, chip shortages are still affecting our ability to produce these consoles. You still got to wait a couple months longer, but we are working on your product, what you bought. They didn't communicate any of that. I had to go find them and ask why it wasn't delivered. So right up front, if you were rating the actual transactional part of the whole experience, they get an F. They did not do good on that part. But we are going to evaluate the console based on its actual build, packaging, you know, as part of the unboxing. And then I will actually put a game in for each of the different units that we had just to test it. Make sure that it works properly, see if they have any function, you know, like changes for audio, video, you know, they have graphic smoothers on certain consoles. We'll see if any of those are there, if they work good, if it's better to just leave everything completely untouched. We're going to test all that. But I just want to be upfront, the sales portion of this whole deal has been terrible. Polymega, you got to do better. You just gotta. Anyway, let's go ahead and start the unboxing. All right, so right off the top, I do like that they put some significant bubble wrap around this packaging because you have some fairly heavy packages that came in the box. We're probably only going to open one of the modules. We're going to open the base unit and then one module. I'm not going to film all of them getting open because I have a feeling they're all going to look identical on the inside. But right off the top, I'm glad that they put a lot of bubble wrap around this packaging. It's a very nice touch. Cut that open. Oh. All right, this is the Super Elemental module. This is for the Super Nintendo. They had different names for each of the ones that they made. I'm going to go ahead and put this here off to the side. This is the base unit of the console. This is the one that you actually get the actual functioning console with. This is what you have to pay for in order to do any of the consoles. And this is one that I got when I purchased the device initially because I bought the items that we got for this in two different purchases. The first one was for the base unit, and then I got one for the Nintendo and one for the Super Nintendo, the modules. At the time, when I bought it, I was still working my way through NES games, so I thought I have plenty of time to get the NES and Super Nintendo modules here, start using them, and then after a while, if I wanted to pick up something else, I could. That's not how things worked out. So I'm fortunate that things worked out the way that they did, but I can't help that. All right, the bubble wrap. Unfortunately, that's not the kind you get to pop, so I guess they lose points for that. if you really care about that kind of thing. All right. One thing I do like about the packaging, and you can see that there's a nice layer of cellophane around the package. I am a very big fan of when consoles that get shipped to you have this kind of plastic layering around it. For comparison, when I bought my Xbox Series X, my PlayStation 5, and my OLED Switch, not a single one of them had cellophane around them. Now, why does that matter? Well, if you're shipping a device across country, and I believe this came from somewhere in California, it's going to be handled by a bunch of different people, depending on what shipping technique that they use. It could be the difference between, going by air or going by, vehicle or train or something. There's all kinds of opportunities for dust and particulates to get inside of the console. How often does that happen? I don't know. Probably not very. But I'm happy that they did this. It's a nice little touch. They took care of something that could have been a big problem. Anyway, I got a knife here. Probably not the smartest thing in the world to open this with. It is very tight, the wrapping. I say cellophane. I'm not sure what this is. Plastic wrap. We'll just call it plastic wrap. Unfortunately, I'm using a lav mic to record my voice while we're doing this, so you may not get all the full ASMR goodness that you would with maybe a better mic, like a shotgun mic. I work with what I got, guys. There we go. All right, get that out of here. All right. Oh, the bottom side, it just comes away. Now let's get that out of here. Get out of here. So it literally is just a shell. Look at that. Oh, it's very slick. And it's just right up on top. There's a nice layer of styrofoam, or yeah, I guess it's styrofoam, to protect it. And here is what I waited almost 2 years to get. This is the core console here. So one thing to note, and this is part of the reason why I purchased it, you'll see on the back they do have an HDMI out port, which was kind of the driving force behind getting this particular device. I wanted a way to record video, if not in 1080p, at least in 720p. The Retron 5 that I use for most of the videos on the channel, they do tend to be in 720 by default. There is no option to upgrade the video to a higher resolution that I've been able to find with the Retron 5. So that is one of the things that I don't love about the console. I have a little bit of plastic, like string around the edge. Not sure what the deal is there. I hope I'm not getting a refurbished unit. That would be annoying. Anyway, inside the box, you have your multi-console device, control device, I should say. I dig that out. Very well packaged there. This is the controller that comes with the device. It very much emulates your modern console devices. It's got 2 shoulder buttons. It has 2 thumbsticks. It has buttons and a D-pad that plays or looks and feels an awful lot like a PlayStation controller. I get the feel for it real quick. The buttons have a nice feel to it. They don't feel too stiff. They don't feel too squishy. Shoulders, well, one of them, oh, there it goes. I was going to say the left L1 button was a little sticky, and it's still sticky. Oh, that's not good. All right, off to a bad start there. So the L1 was sticky. The L2 and R2 have a nice squish to it, kind of like modern consoles. There's a squish to them. Yeah, but the L1 sticks. Don't love that. They also have 4 buttons on there on the face for your start, your turbo, select, and clear. I'm sure those are for like your TurboGrafx 16 consoles. Yeah, it's I don't see a controller or a little battery compartment, so I'm guessing the battery's inside the controller. And I do see a charge port at the very top. I like that. I don't like when they put the charging on the underside, because that gets in your way if you're actually holding it like in your lap while you're playing video games. So I'm glad that they put it on the very top of the charge. I'm going to turn this around for you guys. This is where the CD slot is on the unit. There's an eject button and 2 USB ports. One of the things that I have not mentioned, we'll get into that in a second here, is that there is a way to store data on the console, and I'll go into that in a second. This is for the controller, so you can use that as like a wireless dongle to plug it in. You don't have to physically plug it into the console. No idea if they gave it an actual wire. I would assume that is a way that you can run it. All right, the instruction manual comes in its own little plastic packaging, which I always like. Here is the HDMI cord. Yep. And they put it in wrapping, and they actually put the little caps on there. I always find it interesting which companies decide to put those little caps on the ends of the HDMI cord and which companies don't. It seems like some companies are religious about that, and other ones, they just don't care. They don't bother. All right, this is the charge cable. I will note this is a USB mini. I don't know if you can pick up the plug on the camera there. USB mini is not going to be a very fast charge. Unfortunately, this was probably created before USB-C became the standard, which is a much faster charge time. Hopefully it's not a huge charge time for this controller. That said, all the different modules that you can get for the device actually have a wired controller that you can plug into the unit, so you don't have to use the wireless controller to do everything. And here is the power brick. That is a pretty beefy brick there. And I like that all the wiring came in a separate little box inside the unit. The packaging is very nice. They get high marks for that. I do think that they did a good job with the packaging there. So one of the things that I did not mention on the outset about the Polymega is the fact that you can actually rip cartridge and disc-based games and store them onto any kind of storage device that you connect to the console. They have USB ports on the front, and those USB ports allow you to hook up an external hard drive. If you have like an enclosure, you can put either an actual disk-based drive or a solid-state drive in. In addition, on the back, and I think you should be able to see, it's marked SD card, which is right next to the Ethernet port. You can actually put an SD card in here. I'm not sure what size. It looks like it is the actual, like the real tiny ones, not the ones you have to use the adapter with. And in addition, and we'll go ahead and flip it over, there is a nice little compartment with a screw on the bottom there. You can actually put an nVME drive into the unit and use that to store games. Now, I understand you get a device like this, and you intend to rip games and put them on there, it screams, you know, hey, you're just using this device to create ROMs and dump them on the internet. Supposedly, and this is what the website said about this console, the games are not transferable. Once you put them onto the device here, they cannot be copied and pasted anywhere else. I don't know if that's true or not. The only way I guess we'll be able to find out is to actually try it. I'm not really all that interested in trying to create ROMs and dump them on the internet. I'm sure there are plenty of ways for people to do that if they are so inclined to actually get copies of games. We haven't done that on this channel. Every game that we have played up to this point has either been a digital version that you can get on a modern console or the actual disc or cartridge. So no funny business as far as the console, the games that we've looked at on console. Go ahead and peel open the book. I'll tell you what, they made this thing super long and thin. Glossy paper. Ooh. Let's see how many languages they did this in. That's always something fun to find out about the packaging is, did they do it in English, Spanish, French, Korean, Portuguese? Not seeing a different language here. It looks like it may all be in English. Why don't you look at that? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah. Every word of this book is in English. Now, that could just mean that everything else here, there we go, is in, I'm guessing that's Chinese? Not sure. If someone can recognize the characters on there, maybe you can tell me what language that is. I think it's Chinese, but I'm not 100% certain on that. So they gave you one book for 2 different languages. All right, now, I did mention the fact that there was a port underneath the console to put an nVMe drive in there because I actually bought an nVMe drive to actually put into the console today. We're actually going to do that. I hadn't actually opened this up and prepped it or anything. As far as I know, you just put it in the console and then they give you an option to format it. I guess there's only one way to find out, really, and that's to actually open it and put it in. Yoink. Hello. Man, these things are tiny. You don't really notice it until you get that thing open. Now, one of the things that they did mention on the website, and they do describe how you can upgrade the memory on your console, they were very clear about one thing. You can put an NVMe of a certain type in there, and I can't remember off the top of my head. I think they said anything after Gen 2 of the NVMe drives will work. They did say do not use a heatsink because the heatsink unfortunately will make it so that this compartment will not close all the way. So I got an NVMe drive, a Samsung 2 terabyte. I did not get one with a heatsink because I was worried that I would not be able to get the compartment closed. That would be a bad start. Let's use this guy. All right, move you to the side. Let's see, is that Phillips? That is Phillips. All right, so let's get this bad boy cracked open. Not too tight. A long screw there. All right, so as with most devices where you're going to be putting an NVMe drive in, there's a screw that you actually have to undo, and that will lock the drive in place once you seat it into the teeth on the one end there. So we'll have to undo that real quick. Let me go ahead and pop you open, sir. I don't think you have to take it out all the way, but I will probably, just to be safe. Ooh, that one's tight. All right, got it. All right, you are out. Oh, don't fall into the console. That would be bad. Itty bitty little screw. Itty bitty little flash drive. All right, so make sure that I'm seating this correctly. I think I have it. Nope, I didn't have it. Now I got it. All right, so got it. You hear a little pop when you get it in place. Good to go. I put the little screw back in. They do recommend you use a magnetic screwdriver when you're putting these in. Of course, I don't have one with me, so we'll just have to nail this on the first shot. Got it. And it's in. All right, that easy. One screw to open the compartment, one screw to lock it in place. Quick and easy. These have never been the hardest thing in the world to do. Mainly, I think the big issue is just that the parts are so tiny. That tends to be the issue with nVMe drives. Of course, that's kind of the point, right? It's supposed to be really tiny. Everything's getting smaller. Of course, at some point, we're probably just going to abandon any kind of physical storage because the requirements are getting much, much more impossible to meet for storage devices. All right, so we got this open. We have our power supply, the HDMI cable. I'm sure it isn't one of the Ultra HDMI cables, the 4K. You don't need that. I don't think this console is going to do anything higher than 1080. In fact, I would be surprised if it's anything higher than 720. I would imagine that is what they upconvert to for most of the video here. And I don't see anything on the cable itself indicating what it is. The end connectors, if this is your big hang-up, not gold-plated, unfortunate, or gold color. Who knows if it's actually gold-plated unless you're some kind of expert on metals. And we'll go ahead and crack open the packaging for the controller. All right, so that is the Polymega. Let's go ahead and set this bad boy aside. I'll go ahead and chuck all this out of the way. Set you over there. And we'll go ahead and crank into the element module for the NES. This device right here. All right, I scoot you off to the side here, sir. And we'll go ahead and put the cables up there, get them out of the way. Also wrapped in cellophane, just like the other one. This one actually has a little tear in the corner there, so it'll be a little bit easier to get this started. Don't have to risk stabbing myself. I'm sure someone out there was going crazy watching me point the knife at my own hand because I'm an idiot. All right, it feels like this was done in the exact same way as the base unit, which is it's a shell. And yep, it's sliding out. Come on. This one's not as easy to get out because the element module is very light. Come on. It's going. It's going. Let go. There we go. Also, some styrofoam on the inside. And this is the module. So the way that it works is there's a button on the side of the main console that we'll take a look at in a second here. That basically you just push it and then the whole unit, I believe, if it doesn't pop out, you pull it out. And there's a connection port right here that you slide it into. So that is how this works. And ooh, now this I like a lot. The controller that came with the module has a braided cable. Let me put that up closer to the camera there. Look at that cable. Ooh, very nice. I'm glad they didn't cut a corner on that. That is something that they could have cut a corner on and been very cheap for, but they didn't do it. D-pad and the A and B buttons feel very nice. Not sticking at all. The button in the center here, I believe, pulls up the menu for the actual console. And then the start and select buttons are rubber, and they feel very nice as well. The underneath of the controller is curved. So it's got a little bit of contouring for your hand, but I mean, it is basically just a Nintendo controller, for lack of a better term, or descriptor. Yeah, I mean, this is a Nintendo controller, basically, an NES controller. One thing that I did not mention right off the top about the Polymega, it is software-based emulation. So that comes with caveats. And one of those big caveats is you're not guaranteed 100% compatibility with all of the cartridges and discs that you put in the system. The older the games are, the more likely that they've already found a way to make it work with software emulation. So NES games, I would suspect 99.9% of the games you put into this unit are going to work. Super Nintendo, probably a little less, maybe 99.5%, and there's going to be a handful that don't work. The newer the game, the less likely it's going to work. Now, I say that because the base console, which is a CD-based unit, probably is going to have 85 to 90% compatibility. I don't know if they have a full list on the website. I would suspect the easiest way to find out if a game's going to work in here is literally put it in and see if it pulls up the data. The way it's supposed to work is if you put a disc or a cartridge into the unit, it actually pulls up a page telling you what the game is, maybe some screenshots and some other information about it. So you can actually get that information, and you probably have to use an internet connection. I don't think that's stored anywhere on the console, but it might be. I don't know. But anyway, let's go ahead and pop the module out and see how the experience of swapping these goes. So the button that you press is right here on the side. Little black button with an eject button. I don't know if you just press it. You just press it. And let's see if I just pull. Yep, there we go. Easy enough. And there are little runners on the bottom of the unit there that you press, or that you slide the unit into. And for the other module we put back in, imagine we just slide it in place and then it'll pop in place. Yep, easy as that. Very easy. They could have made this a lot more complicated, maybe a little more nerve-wracking, but as far as swapping out the units, very easy, very clean, no issues there. The shell of the console, it's not the highest end plastic that I've ever seen for a console device, but it's certainly not the worst. I could put a side-by-side picture of this with the Retron 5, and you could definitely see the difference in the quality. The Retron 5 is very cheap plastic feeling. Not the cheapest I've ever experienced. If you've ever gotten a Retro Duo, those things are the cheapest plastic known to man. I've actually broken one trying to put a cartridge into it, which is why we don't use Retro Duos for this channel. But yeah, I think that's what we're going to look at for the Polymega. Now, I did say that I had a little surprise here, a little unboxing that we were going to do on the side. So I have a game. This is a game that was made by Limited Run. Well, the game wasn't made by them. It was reproduced by Limited Run. Let's go ahead and crack it open. Oop. Get the tape out of the way. Come on. There we go. It is Dragon View. Now, Dragon View, if you're not familiar, is the US name for the game Draken 2. Draken, or Draken 2, are RPG games, and what made them unique is the fact that they had kind of a fake 3D environment that you could walk around in during the playthrough of the game. The first game was a little bit closer to a true RPG in that you actually had a party of 4 people that you wandered around the map on. This game, I believe it cuts down to just a single player, and most of the action that occurs in the single player elements of this game feel more actiony than the first game. The first game, you actually had characters that you could kind of point in the direction of enemies and try to guide what they were doing, but they kind of acted on their own. So this game played a lot different from the first one. The reason why this was reproduced, and this is part of the reason why I ended up getting a reproduction cart, used copies of this game can run upwards of $750. That is a lot of money to pay for a Super Nintendo game. So I was not that interested in picking up a game for $750 that we would look at for maybe one episode and then never touch it again. So that is why I ended up getting the limited run version of the game. And they didn't emulate the exact appearance of the original boxing for it. I can do a side-by-side of what you see here with what the original NES or Super Nintendo box looked like. But yeah, let's go ahead and cut it open. Also wrapped in plastic. Not a surprise there. I cannot imagine they would send these out without putting some kind of plastic around them. Almost feels like it was double layered. Might have been double layered. That would have been weird. Okay, there we go. Now, I've never shown a Super Nintendo or an NES box on this channel, and the reason for that is, quite frankly, I don't have any of them anymore. I think most kids were the same. When you got the box, you took it out, and if it had the little, in the case of the NES, the black slips for the cartridge, that was all you really wanted to hold on to protect the case. And in the case of the Super Nintendo games, they had that little stubby plastic cover on the end of the circuit board. So in both of those cases, that was all the protection that you really wanted or needed for the games. And then you never kept the box. So it's very rare when you're looking for used copies of games to actually find the whole box. I may keep the box for this, not 100% on that. I don't see any tape, so I think we could just pull it open. Yep. And the way that they usually worked with the Super Nintendo was that you would actually have the game suspended in like a little cardboard pouch. And it looks like they kind of did that. I do like that the cart is green. Most Super Nintendo carts usually had just that stock gray color to them. This one, obviously, since it's a reproduction cart, they could make it whatever color they wanted. If you've gotten anything from Limited Run, I believe the game or the cartridge for Mega Man X came in like a nice sky blue color, or it may have just been a straight blue color. I'm not 100% on that. And it does have an instruction manual. Look at that. That's not something that you necessarily would get if you bought a game used. You do occasionally find some. They usually are also a little bit bigger. This one feels like it's lost maybe about an inch on the side. But hey, they put an instruction manual in there, and that's a nice touch. Let's see what they got in here. Prologue, your story, controller functionality. A lot of detail in the instruction manual there for everything. I have to assume this is a recreation of the original instruction manual. Not 100% certain on that. I guess the easy way to find out would be to do a side-by-side with some of these pages and see if they match what's on, say, the Internet Archive of the instruction manual. Now, what I'm curious about is, do they actually credit the original staff or the limited run staff in the back of the book? Let's get to the back. Oh, no. They have no credits. Wait. No credits. Oh, that's disappointing. Nothing. Nothing in here. Just some instructions on how to play the game in the very back. Just some instructions, like simple tips to get you started. Also important to note with the limited run, no plastic cover for the cartridge. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me grab one here off my shelf. We're talking about this guy right here. This is something that they used to include, I'd say, for the first 2 or 3 years of the Super Nintendo's lifespan. And at some point, I guess they just decided they didn't need them. The cartridge wasn't at risk of getting corroded, so they just stopped putting them in the packaging, which was very disappointing. But this is not included with this game, so that's a little disappointing. Go ahead and pop it out. Boop. I like that the sticker on the back is not the full sticker that you used to get on the old carts that had all these instructions on what to do. It does say turn the console off before loading or removing it, and then it says clean the cartridge regularly. What kid ever did that? When I was a kid, I didn't clean these things. Now, I'm glad I recognized very early on that the Super Nintendo carts did not fail as often as the NES carts, so I didn't have a habit of blowing onto the cartridge before I put it in. I have a feeling more often than not, kids ended up corroding their cartridge by doing that more than anything that would have happened with the lockout chip that was either in here or it might have been in the console itself. And I don't think you ever had any issues like that with the Super Nintendo. The regular Nintendo, all the time. That happened a lot. Now, what I would be interested to find out, and I don't have the screwdriver with me right now, I would love to find out, and I'm not worried about popping this thing open because I've already cleaned probably 40 or 50 of the carts that we've looked at on the channel and not had any issues with them. I would love to find out if this is an actual circuit board inside, just like with your regular Super Nintendo carts, or if they shortcut this, maybe just stuck it on like a little cheap flash drive or something. I can't imagine that's the case. It actually has all the pins like it's supposed to on the underside, so I cannot imagine that that's what they did here. But Who knows? Maybe it's easier to get it working just to do that instead of emulating the actual circuitry for one of these cartridges. All right, so we've unboxed the Polymega. We've unboxed one of the modules that you can get for the device, and we have unboxed a new game that we'll look at in a future episode of probably Rental Regrets, even though this is technically an RPG, so we would look at it as part of Nub's RPG Wednesday. I think we'll just go ahead and do this as a Rental Regrets episode sometime in the near future. We want to look at Draken 1 first, because I actually have Draken, and then we'll look at this one since this is the sequel. How much of a difference is it going to make in the actual evaluation of the game or the experience? Probably nothing, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to look at the first one, then this one. So this will probably sit on the shelf for a little while before we actually look at it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get the Polymega hooked up, play around with the menus a little bit, and see what's behind the hood here. All right, and now we're going to take a look at the Polymega proper. The startup. This is the very first screen that popped after it did its little splash logo, and I guess it's having me check the controller, which I did plug in via the USB port on the front just to charge it, and it's having me press a couple buttons to make sure that it is working properly. In order, it had me plug it into the system, which it is doing right now, or it is charging right now. I will note the controller they show on the screen does not look like the controller I have. It does have colors for all 4 of the face buttons, whereas the controller I got in the box doesn't have any colors assigned to those buttons. It just has the letters. Also, the D-pad is a solid piece in the picture, and the one that is included with the box that I got has a segmented D-pad, more like what you would get with a PlayStation controller. And then it has me check a button on the bottom of the controller, which is not there. There is no button on the bottom of the controller, so I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. All right, and then it says hold to the right for 2 seconds. I don't know if that did anything. Do I have to hit the power button on it? All right, so that just describes it. Oh, you know what? Duh. I didn't plug in the wireless dongle. That would probably be why it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let's do that. All right, now it's plugged in. Aha! All right, so it looks like it connected as soon as I put in the dongle. Held right on it for 2 seconds, and there it goes. We're off. All right, so I am most definitely American, but I do like that they have a huge number of languages that you can pick from. They got... I'll never understand why this is such an important thing for people, but you can get the British version of English versus English. They got Italian, they got French, or excuse me, German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, I believe that's Swedish, Norwegian, no idea what Suomi is. And then that's got to be Korean, Chinese, either the simplified or the complicated version. That's probably Japanese at the very bottom. Oh, we got to go with English. X? Where are the buttons? All right, so the face buttons are more like an Xbox controller. A is at the bottom, B is to the right, X is to the left, and then Y is on top. Region, we're North America. An end user license agreement, which who reads these things? Did you get all that? Good. Data handling and privacy. Okay, if there is any personal information I have to enter, if I have to do it right up front, I will probably do it off camera. If I can skip that and just get started, perfect. Now, does this mean these are included? I think these are games that are included with it. Oh, now that's interesting. So if you had absolutely no games whatsoever to look at, the system came with some that you could just play right off the top. That's a nice little touch. I mean, are any of them any good? Maybe not, but they still included them. Oh, that's funny. This is one that I actually had picked up for a look in a future episode. Oh, no. If I had gotten this system before I'd purchased this, I probably would have been able to avoid buying this game. And it does say play, so I'm guessing this is included with the system. Oh, that's funny. I like this. They didn't have to do any of this. They could have just sent you the console and that was it, but they included a whole mess of games. Looks like some of them were just made by people, so, you know, maybe they're of different quality. But, I mean, I recognized a handful. I think 40 Winks is a legit, like, developed game that came out. Yeah, 99. And 8 Eyes, I know it's a legit game because I purchased it for a look on the channel, and same with Dragonview. All right, so let's see what this is. I'm guessing these are just games that you can install on the console. I would note the background, which we only briefly looked at for a second there, the little modeled background. They do have a picture of Secret of Mana, which is a nice touch. I mean, if you're going to have one visible, you got to have a nice one visible, right? Right up in the front, right in your face. All right, so they have options for controllers. Connect a controller, then hold the D-pad right to register. Well, right here. Yep, there you go. All right, good. So there's player one. I don't know how many of the wireless controllers you can do that with. Maybe just the one. All right, so you have to... I assume you could do a power off with the button on the controller. Not sure about that. You can do screenshots. All right, let's go back to home. Didn't see a lot of options for adjusting graphics or audio up front. Maybe you have to put a game in order to do that. So we have the NES module hooked up. I had a game I wanted to look at right away. Let's go ahead and plug it in and take a look. All right. It's got a nice bite to it, but it's not super stiff. It doesn't seem to be registering the game. At least not that I noticed. Go to the NES. No? Interesting. I don't think there was anything I missed. Alright, we're off to a terrible start. I can't get any of the games to actually read. Did I not plug you in all the way? It feels like you're in. Wow. I hate to think I bought all these modules and not a single one of them wants to work. Huh. That is a tight fit on the NES. Now, let's switch gears here and we'll try a PlayStation game. I have a PlayStation game in mind that I wanted to take a look at. Let's fire this one up and see if this works. This disc is pristine, so I cannot imagine that there's anything wrong with it. Jewel case, not pristine. Apparently at some point I spilled soda on it. Unfortunately, I think a lot of them are going to be like that because I don't think it was just one disc. I think it was a whole bunch of them that got stuff spilled on them. There it goes. Didn't seem to want to take the disc initially. All right, so it detected the disc. Is it showing anything? Hold on. It's reading. It's loading, it's booting, it's doing something in the background. Oh, there we go. That's the game. All right, so that gives you two options at the very top. It gives you play and manage. And yes, we are looking at Spider-Man. I'll pick manage to see what options they have. They have add to collection and install, and add to wish list. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to install just to see how long it takes. Because again, we're talking about an nVME drive, so this thing should be installing lightning fast depending on how fast the disk reader actually functions. So we're going to say yes. to internal storage. Oh no. No, there should be more storage space than that. I may have to check the system and see if the nVMe drive is picking up or if it's connected correctly. All right, we'll do it on the internal drive for the time being. All right, we are back, and it looks like the install progress took a hair shy of about 10 minutes for a single 750 megabyte installation from a PlayStation disc. Now, I have no idea how long it's actually going to take to install multiple discs. Maybe the size will affect how long it takes to install. It could also be that because it was doing internal storage, maybe that internal storage is not great. Hard to say for certain. Well, I left the controller unplugged for a couple seconds and then it turned off, so I have no idea if it's... There we go. Can I plug it in and play at the same time? That would be a nice touch. No, as soon as you plug it in, it looks like it's... Oh, there we go. All right. Turn to home. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Is there any other options I missed? Nothing. You can delete the install, which is... Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, back. Let's just go ahead and play it. Fire it up. Start classic mode, save states and other enhancements disabled. How would that work if there is no memory card slot on the unit? Select a patch to apply to this game. All right, so you would actually have to have a patch in order to do that, and you would have to find it online, excuse me. And I don't know if there's anything like that. We'll go ahead and start it with the enhancements enabled. Ooh, look at that logo. It's exploding in your face. This is, of course, long before they became Activision Blizzard. Or Neversoft. They got eaten up by the megalith that was Activision at some point. I wonder if I have to take the disc out to see if there's any improvement in how long things take to load. Oh, it's jazzy. You hear that? I probably should talk over the whole thing just to make sure it doesn't get copyright struck. Okay, so memory card, options. Let's go ahead and peek at options. I'll tell you what, the screen looks very good. Don't notice any issues. Obviously, the system is supposed to be up-resing. I do see that source and capture are both showing 1080p by 60, which I believe is about as high as you could possibly go with a device outside of 4K. Screen adjust. I don't need to mess with that. I don't know. Back. Music and sound. No! Ha! Okay, well, we won't mess with that at all. Back. Controller configuration, we'll figure it out as we play. We'll do... New game. Kid mode.
Kid mode?
No, that's alright. We'll do just normal. We're not going to mess around too much with it. I just want to give it a quick run, see how it looks and plays.
Is the light that will cut through the darkness when humanity conforms to a
If you're a fan of the animated series like I am from '95, you hear this voice and immediately go, "Hey, that's the guy who did Doc Ock in the cartoon from the '90s, mid-'90s."
Businessman, that my duties to humankind will be fulfilled. Thank you.
Okay, we'll skip that. We don't need to see the whole thing. They do show you a lot of comic covers that are based on whatever event is going on in-game. I don't know how much they're based on actual real comics.
True believers and newcomers alike. Spider-Man co-creator Stan Lee here. Once again, we find our hero Peter Parker, better known around the world
Stan Lee,
as the
of course, did the voice work
Spider-Man
for every intro in the game, and I think you can find him in each level.
So get ready for a...
Okay, skip. Let's get to the game. We'll worry about hearing all that stuff for real when we actually play the game.
Hey, Spider!
Like as a part of the channel. Okay, we don't... Okay, so the sticks don't do anything. I don't know if that was because the game came out before there was actual DualShock compatibility or not. Continue. Jump. Look at those ups. How do you swing in this game? Alright, so that's not it. There we go. Oh, or am I dead? I think you just hold it to swing in this one. No, we don't need to see the intro again. And then we gotta wait for the load again. It was certainly not a fast load. Now, I don't know if that's because it's doing it off the disc, because the disc is still inserted. I guess the easiest way to find out would be to take the disc out and then see how things work. Alright, well, let's just do...
Hey, Spider-Man.
I don't need your advice. Yeah, there we go. Just hold, right? Yep, just hold. Whee! Alright. He has no attacks when he jumps. Now, that is a weird choice. I instinctively want to press on the right control stick.
Something's going on here.
That sounds like the voice actor for Spidey from the cartoon as well. I mean, they went after the entire cast, from what it sounds like. So you gotta hold it to web him up, yeah. I think he's done once you do that. You don't have to, yeah. Look at that.
I'm already at full health.
Well, no, that's not him. They went for a guy who sounds just like the guy. Okay, so enough of that. Let's take a look at the options that you have for the display. I don't know what virtual display means. Okay, so you can adjust aspect ratio. Oh, look at that. Virtual display. Oh, these are effects, so you can make it look kind of like you're using a CRT like you would back in the day. I don't need that. We'll exit. Settings, video, adjust screen resolution. So yeah, there you go. That's the only option they give me for this one. Yeah, keep the setting, that's fine. Adjust display area, that's fine. Back. How about audio? System music and sound effects. Those only take place during the main menu, where they don't give you the option to do any of that. Console, restart game. All right, so not exactly a huge suite of options there. Turbo, analog off. Analog on. We'll try that and see if that gives me the... All right, so there it is. You do have the option to use the control sticks. Interesting, you had to pick that separately. Now, the right stick still doesn't control the camera, from what I can tell.
We're taken down by your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Okay. Good enough. Heh. I always thought this game had control over the camera. I guess it didn't. This is back in the days when controlling a camera wasn't just a simple move of the right stick. Sometimes they wanted the camera to move automatically based on whatever was happening on camera.
Whoa, police choppers.
Get out of here.
I'm already at full health.
Alright, I got it, guy.
Eagle 1 to tower, 1033 in...
Yeah. I might cut a bunch of this out just so we can get to the... here we go. Alright, this is what I wanted to know. Yes. It didn't even take me to a memory card. There we go. Alright. Save. Input name. We'll just do nub. Now if I went to the right letter first. There we go. Finish. Okay, I guess it installs the saves automatically onto the hard drive. Interesting. I kind of like that. You don't have to worry about creating a virtual memory card in the system. It just says it's there, that you can save it.
Well, I hope you don't mind if I make a quick deposit.
Let's go ahead and exit the game. Yes. Now, I would be curious to find out if it's just like a quick state, or if you pull it back up. Does it go right back to where it was, or does it restart? It looks like it's rebooting the whole game. Once you save and turn, well, once you have back out, yeah, it just goes right back to the menu. Okay. Well, now we know. So it is not saving where it was. The Retron 5 does that. When you put a game into the console, it boots up where it was last at in the game cartridge. So that was an interesting choice that they made for the Retron 5. Here it doesn't do that. I do see save states on the menu here. That's nice. So you can do a quick save in the system versus, you know, using the memory card slot, which, you know, is also an option. We'll go ahead and exit. Let's try the module one more time, see if I can't get it to work. There is an eject button on the face of the unit. Now, one thing I did note while I was thumbing through some of the options for how to get the system running, if for some reason the actual feeder tray, it's not a tray, but it's like I imagine it's a couple wheels that grip the disc and then roll it out. If for some reason they stop working, there is a way to manually force an ejection of the disc, where basically you just stick like a paper clip end into a little hole next to the disc tray and it'll pop the disc out. So they accounted for that. They accounted for the possibility that the unit would just stop working one day and you might want to get the disc back out in case you have to save that and scrap the rest of the system. All right, so what I did find while I was thumbing around the instruction manual waiting for Spider-Man to install is they said that if the unit, the element module that you put on the system, if there isn't a little light that lights up on the face of the unit, it isn't connected correctly. I do see that light, but we'll pop it out. Excuse me. We'll pop it out just to see if I can't reseat it and try again, get it to fire up. All right, well, who knows? It could have been the games, it could have been the unit. We'll mount it again. And see what it does. Popped in. It lit up. All right, we'll try this one more time. And then if this doesn't work, we'll try a third game. And if a third game doesn't work, maybe it's just the module doesn't work correctly. And then we can always swap to another module and test one of the other ones out. Oh, there we go. Okay, so, well, at least we learned this. Part of the reason why I didn't have the system storage on the external driver, the nVME, is because it wasn't formatted. So we can do that at least. We'll get that done. Press and hold right to proceed. All right, well, there you go. There it goes. I can't imagine this is going to take long. Yeah, there you go. All right, perfect. That was easy. It just wasn't explained terribly well. To update the software. Well, maybe. Oh, yeah, I gotta... Alright, well, I can do that off camera. We're gonna take a look at the system update and see if that fixes anything. Yes, I want to download the software update. One of 18. Hopefully one of those 18 tells me that the modules are going to start working. You would really hope that all of this kind of stuff was already done in the factory or wherever they're building. If they're custom making them in an office somewhere, that they would install all these updates before they actually send it to you. But who knows? Maybe this has been sitting in an office building or a factory or a warehouse somewhere for 4 years and they didn't have the modules built, and that's what I had been waiting on. In which case, the modules don't work, so they didn't do something right. I'm hoping this is what's been holding it back from working, is one of these updates was supposed to initiate the module. Initialize? Whatever word you want to use for it. A lot of updates. 18 of them. Let's say you didn't have an internet connection. As weird as that would be in the year 2024, the device just wouldn't work unless you were using the disk part of the system, which already gives you a ton of variety. And we went over the whole list of consoles that you had support for just using the disk slot. But none of the modules are doing anything yet. All right, all done. We're done, right? Restart the system. Yeah, okay. If that'll make things work. All right, the system has finally finished updating, and thank you! The module actually works. It actually picked up that I had put this in. All right, now, one of the things we want to do then, let's manage. And we're going to try to install the Super Nintendo game and see how long it takes. It needs all of 1 megabyte to install, so this should take nothing, in theory. So we're going to find out. We're going to do it to the external storage. Done. It's that easy. All right. Return to home. Now, one thing I do want to try, which I haven't tried yet, we're going to go ahead and take the game back out, and we're going to try to run it off the internal drive and see if that actually works. Super Nintendo. Super Adventure Island, and it's got the whole description there of what the character is. It gives you the developer and the publisher. Doesn't give me the actual date that it came out. Even gives you a list of all the other games that came out in the Adventure Island series, basically. Well, maybe not all of them. All right. Anyway, whoa. Oh, there we go. There's your screen captures, or your screen grabs, rather. Okay. Well, let's fire it up. We're going to play it, yet again, patches. Who knows how that works? I can't imagine there's any patches for this game. Cheat codes. What? Oh, you can... Oh, that's nice. You can actually use Game Genie codes with the system. That's a nice touch. We'll do it with the enhancements enabled. I don't know what all it's going to change. Probably just up-reses the game. There we go. Looks good. Just get it started. Don't need all this nonsense. Well. All right, there we go. There's our boy, Master Higgins. Okay, so the output of the video is 1080p. There is a tiny bit of audio delay, tiny bit. I mean, there was audio delay with the Retron 5. I also know that there was some issues between the actual capture card and the computer, so it could also be partly that. Owie! I don't want to touch the rocks because they actually subtract from your health meter. Whee! Okay, let's see something real quick. Oh, how do I do that? There we go. Load. Settings, video and audio. Okay, so you can actually down turn the resolution. I don't know why you would. I can't imagine any of these would make the experience better, so we'll probably leave it like that all the time. And just the screen. Force. Oh, I keep hitting that. Sorry. Force RBG range to full, 0 to 255. Of course we're going to do that. I don't know why I wouldn't. Audio. Enable MSU1 music normalization. Corrects audio imbalances in MSU1 music. I don't know what that is. I don't even know what an MSU1 is. Save states. All right. Console. Okay, so that's just resetting. I don't know what this does. Okay. Exit. Yeah. All right. So we got the Super module working, which is good. Manage, add to favorites, mark as completed, remove from collection, delete install data. Okay, we don't want to do any of that. What we want to do is we want to go all the way back to the collection page. There we go. All right, we're going to pop this out. We're going to try the NES module one more time. Hopefully, the problem has been fixed. I got it sitting right here, so let's pop it out. I will say this about the installation and removal of the module. The module doesn't have anything to grab on the sides. And when you hit the eject button, it does not actually push the module out at all. It just releases the hooks that keep the module in place. So it's not terribly easy to get these in and out. And unfortunately, the plastic on the outside of the shell doesn't have a lot of grip to it. It's very smooth. So there's no tack to it. There's no way to grip it really good when you're trying to pull it out. So I don't love that. All right. Come on, NES module. I know you work. I know you want to work with me. Here we go. Moment of truth. We're going to put in the game that I tried last with this thing. It's in, and it's reading! Okay, so out of the box, the game did not want to work. All right, Rampage. We're going to install. This can't take more than a second. Yeah, go ahead and install. We'll do it to the external, and done. Yeah, it's that fast. So, digitizing your entire collection is really fast if it's one of the older games. If it's a Super Nintendo or an NES, probably a TurboGrafx 16. Can't speak to that because I never owned one. If it's a very small install file, it takes almost no time whatsoever to play it. Patches. Don't see any patches. Who knows? Maybe there aren't a whole lot available. We'll go ahead and let's do classic mode and see if that makes a tangible difference. I don't think it's going to. I always liked Lizzie. How do you select Lizzie? There we go. There we go. Oh. Oh, there's punching. There we go. Down it goes. That looks good. This is also showing at 1080p and 60. I think that's 60 frames. So there's absolutely no loss in the resolution, or the frame rate. Which I don't think there was ever an issue with the Retron 5 in that regard. It's just that it was always 720. That is the highest resolution you could get with it. Nice and smooth. Jump! If you fall versus jumping in this game, you actually take damage. So you always want to jump when you can help it. Ate you. Ate a toilet. Whee! Now, one of the things that the Retron 5 did great, and I have no idea if it's going to be a better or worse experience here, I guess we'll find out in a second, is that you had 9 save states available for every single game you put in the system. Let's see how many they give you in this one. Save state. Oh, crap. We'll have to restart it. Hold on. Let's exit. Yes. Fire it back up. And we'll do in new mode. Or in whatever the new version mode is. We'll go Lizzie again. Yes, yes. We're in San Jose. Poor people are just getting demolished every single day. Don't see a real big difference in the presentation here. Looks just like I remember. Alright, now let's, whoop, whoop, whoop. Dodging those explosives. Go to the save state. Create new. May void the game's internal save data. I don't know what that means, but we'll do it. Alright, yeah. And, oh, it doesn't look like there is a limit. You make as many as you want. Well, maybe there is a limit. But you can create multiples, because you save over old ones or you make new ones. I like that. I like that a lot. You can choose to save over those, so that's nice. All right, exit. All right, so we got the NES and the Super Nintendo module working after I installed 18 updates. That's insane. Let's go ahead and pop that out. We're going to try the Sega Genesis module. I think it's called the Mega module. And then if we can get that working, we'll move on to the fourth one for the N64. All right, so we have the module for the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, depending on what you want to call it, inserted. We'll go ahead and put in a cart. I have not looked at this game on the channel yet. This will not be the official video for it. We're just going to be taking a quick peek at it, and then we'll do a proper video in the future. If I can get it to pop in. It's not seating. Come on, seat. Seat, damn you! Oh, I have it in there correct. Oh my god. You don't want to sit at all, do you? I hope I have it in there right. Come on. Oh no. Can't even get it to seat. Don't damage it. hope you're the right one. Oh, man, that sucks. All right, we'll try a different one. Let's do... Let's try this guy. Let's try this one out. See if this one works. Not having any luck here getting these in. I don't want to damage it trying to seat the damn card. Oh, there's nothing I'm missing here. Not an adapter, no. All the games are supposed to be the same. Oh, that's worrying. I'm worried I'm going to damage the damn cartridge just trying to put it in, or the module. And then we won't be able to do it here. We'll have to use the Retron. There it goes. Holy crap, you had to force that thing in. Alright, we got it. We got Vector Man. We'll go ahead and... Oh, look at this. So you have different versions on the cartridge. I didn't even know that was a thing. Well, okay, but it's different versions, but I think I have the American version, so not the Mega Drive one. So we'll pick that one. And we'll do an install real quick. Yes, it's 2 megs. Oh, big money. Look at that. All right, return to home. Fire it up. I don't think there's patches for that. I think the majority of the games you're going to find patches for are going to be your newer ones, so like your N64 and your PlayStation games, maybe even Sega Saturn. Older games, I cannot imagine you're going to have a whole lot of games that you need to install or patches for. Okay. I think that's right. That's how the intro looked. I'll be honest, I played this very little. Maybe one time, ever. Okay, so... Where are the... Yeah, we don't need to read the story. We're just testing. There's the jump button. Okay. Game moves suitably suitably quick. Yeah, someone's gonna have to tell me in comments whether or not the Sega Genesis always had an impossibly tough disc tray or disc slot or cartridge slot to seat the games into, because man, I had to force that thing, and it was frankly a little bit worrying. Like, that's something I never want to have to do when I'm putting a game into a system, is fight it to get it in. So that just makes me think I'm breaking it. Uh-oh. Oh, quit touching the bad guy. Don't these break? Yes, they do. What did that do for me? I don't know. I think I got health. Okay, so let's do something real quick, which we haven't done yet. Let's go ahead and actually change. Oh, we have done that, but whoa. Okay, so if you want to play on what the television looked like when it had a curve, you know, your old CRTs, there you go. There's the RGB presentation, a little bit blurry if you remember the TV looking like that, your composite. Whoa! If you want to play it in Game Boy mode? Virtual Boy mode? Oh, no! Alright, I have the N64 module plugged in. Important to note on the module for the N64, unlike the ones for the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis, because the N64 had 4 built-in controller ports, the module for the N64 also has 4 ports. So if you actually have 4 controllers, you can have some friends come over and hook them up. I have no idea if that means that multi-tap devices for the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo, and I don't know if there was ever one for the Sega Genesis. I'd have to double check on that. But if you do have those, I have no idea if that means they'll actually work with the unit. That would be something I'd have to test at another time, because my multi-tap's not out and available right now. So let's go ahead and put in a game. Another one we have not looked at on the channel yet, but we will at a future point in time. This will just be a test to make sure that it's working properly. This is one of my guilty pleasure games, I think. It's reading and... reading. There it is. Episode 1 Racer. So this is probably going to be one of those ones where I'll have to mute the audio just to make sure that I don't get another copyright strike. I don't know why those popped in my brain as the ones that I wanted to look at. Add this game to your collection only. All right, let's do that. A whopping 35 megabytes. My goodness, it's big. I remember the box not looking like that at all. All right, install. We're going to do it internally, or externally rather. Done. Very fast. As long as it's not a disk-based game where the data is quote-unquote uncompressed. I mean, it's still probably a little bit compressed. The cartridge-based games are installing super-duper fast, so there's no worries about that. Now let's go ahead and fire her up. I wonder if they have a patch for this. There's no way there's a patch. Oh, I actually hadn't typed it in. I cannot imagine there's a patch. I don't even know if I know the name for it. If it's just episode 1 Racer. Let's find out. Is it 1 or I? Now that doesn't help. I think it's I. Well, let's see. Checking. I'm not seeing anything. I don't think it has any. That's all right. That's fine. We don't need it. This game works just fine. Now, what I understand about the system, and I have no way of proving this, is that the expansion pack is already enabled for the game. Now, I don't know if there were any games that did not function if the expansion pack was installed. So I don't know if that would affect the playability of any games. I do know that certain games, like say Donkey Kong 64, for some reason, which never actually made use of the expansion pack, would not function unless it was installed. So that's a good thing, that they make it a part of the packaging. That it knows it has an expansion pack plugged in. I even show you on the screen there. Oh, look at those glorious muddy graphics. Oh, no, we don't want to let the audio play. All right, we'll just skip that. All right. The D-pad doesn't work here, but the thumbstick absolutely works. We'll do just standard tournament. We're not going to be too worried about getting it running. Some of the pit droids walking into a wall. They had to cut away real quick so you didn't see that there was nothing behind that wall. All right, let's... Ugh, I don't love that. You have to use the thumbstick here. You don't have a choice. There is a lot of input delay here. That could just be because the capture card has been flogged a little bit while I was doing the testing and recording here. Early on, your best bet is to use... I think I always used Ebe Endicott. I mean, Anakin's pretty good as well. He has better brakes, but for all the stats, I think I intended to use him until you got a chance to use Bullseye Navwar. All right, we'll do race 1. just start the race. But I don't remember the text being so tiny there. We're going to skip the intro because it plays a song that's probably... Oh, there we go. All right, so you had to hit the A button to get it going. Get it rolling. Good thing about this game is I don't think you actually heard a ton of licensed music unless it was the intro for a stage, in which case you did hear some licensed music. But when you get to the final track, they actually cue up a song that played in the movie during the final lap of the pod race in the movie. All right, so how do you tip it? I don't need to repair anything. Where's the tip button? There it is. Okay, so you have to... Oh, no. X. X is your tip it on the side button. Do you need to do it? No, there's really not a whole lot of tight squeezes, but you can do it in this game. Whoa! 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 And how do I do the fast? There it is. Oh. There's the boost. Oh, don't do it here! Repair? Repair. Alright, that's good. This probably would have been easier if I was using the actual included not the Super Nintendo, but the N64 controller, because I would have been a little more familiar with the buttons that way. It's not that this isn't completely unfunctional, it's just that it doesn't feel quite as smooth as I would have liked. I do note that the graphics are moving a lot smoother than I remember them moving on the N64. I remember it being only 30 frames a second. And that could just be that the display, since it's doing this in 1080p by 60, is helping make it look a little bit smoother. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, that is a fairly good look, and we're probably going to stop here. How do I brake? Before I cross the line where it actually starts queuing up licensed music. We don't want that to happen. Okay, so, yeah, that is all of the different modules that I had picked up for the system. After patches, we got everything to work. So let's go ahead and head back to the main menu. Let some glorious background audio play while I wrap my thoughts up on the Polymega, the experience of getting the system and using it. All right, so normally this would be, if we were doing just a standard episode of Nubs Collection, this would be the point where I would do my review phase, and I would do a lot of the thoughts that I had on the game kind of off the cuff. But I figured since we've gone through all the effort to actually unbox and test out the Polymega as thoroughly as I could in a single video, I'd go ahead and write out the notes that I had for the experience of buying, unboxing, and testing out the Polymega instead of trying to do it all off the cuff. So I am going to be reading from notes here, but I wanted to make it as thorough as I could in evaluating the entire experience of getting the Polymega. So for the final score for the Polymega, I've decided to break the review down into specific categories, each with an associated score. There are 7 categories in total, and the final score I gave for the Polymega was an average of those 7 scores. The categories for the scoring are sales and delivery experience, which is the purchase and receipt of items that I ordered from Playmagy. Customer service, how well they handled both the external communication via the website of the delays that they were experiencing, and also my own communication with them concerning the delay. Aesthetics and build quality, the packaging and materials used in the console itself, as well as the box. Onboard software and presentation, the UI and options for modifying video and audio presentation. Core hardware functionality, the experience of swapping modules, the internet connection options and USB ports. Add-ons and controllers, the design and experience of using the modules, controller design and functionality, and finally storage and installation process, the onboard and external storage options, and the experience of game installation on the device. So right off the bat, for sales and delivery experience, the entire thing was abysmal. It took almost 2 years from the time of my initial purchase to the date of receipt. I was made to believe that it was going to take about 6 months due to chip shortages to receive the order. That didn't happen. And this was messaging that was on the website. They said expect, right when you go to the page to actually make the purchase, it said order is expected to ship, if it wasn't third quarter, it might have been fourth quarter of 2022. So the same year that I bought it, they were expecting it to ship, and it absolutely did not. If someone had asked me whether or not this console was worth the purchase, I would have had to ask them how long they would be willing to wait to receive the console before offering my answer. This was an absolute failure on Polymega's part. I have to give sales and delivery experience a 1 out of 10. It's not a 0 on the simple basis that I did eventually receive my purchase. That said, you cannot make customers wait this long to receive their purchase and expect to stay in business for long. This has to be improved immediately. I understand that in my case, I made a purchase at a point in time that we all know now historically, things were very tough to get. Not just everyday commodities, but especially if it was in the electronics field, parts for everything were hard to come by, especially semiconductors. That was the big issue, was that they only had a few factories that produced the semiconductors that are used in everything in the world. And unfortunately, because those environments were clean environments, the pandemic basically shut them down. So, along with all other logistics and shipping concerns that were affecting the ability to get supplies around the world, chip shortages were just making everything worse. All that said, Polymega could have done a much better job of communicating how long it was going to take, and they didn't do that. So from a sales and delivery experience, 1 out of 10. They did terrible on that part. As far as customer service, it also receives an extremely low score based largely on the email that I sent to inquire about my purchase. To make me wait 5 months for a simple answer about the status of my purchase is terrible. The one reply that they sent was also disappointingly vague, offering a nebulous "look out for an email in the near future confirming shipment" response. That wasn't good enough. It did not help that they did not make it clear on their website that delays were going to be longer than they expected, because they never communicated that adequately. I did note in the video that another issue that was affecting the production of the consoles was the fact that they're manufactured in Myanmar, where a bunch of protests were impacting the production of the consoles. Say that on the website. You gotta communicate that kind of thing. That's beyond your control, but you gotta communicate that to people. I would not have been as frustrated with the experience if that information was just offered as context. I give the customer service a 2 out of 10 and would add that they did do a good job communicating the actual shipment once it occurred. I had a good sense of its location all the way up to delivery, even though that's more on the part of UPS and then eventually the United States Postal Service than Polymega, because they handled it from there. As far as aesthetics and build quality, the packaging for the core unit modules was very impressive. The package was protected with bubble wrap inside the shipping box, and there was a layer of cellophane or plastic wrap wrapping all of the individual units. Each of the boxes has a very nice looking matte surface with a sheen for the actual console or controller or module images, and it makes them pop. So visually it's very nice looking. The entire package has a consistent design. The console, the controllers, the box, protective styrofoam layers all had a similar either dark gray or black shade to them. The plastic used for the module itself is maybe a step below modern console quality, but it is definitely better than contemporary retro consoles made on the cheap. The texture of the plastic has a nice feel to it. It's not smooth and shiny like you'll see on most of these retro consoles that you'll find in the stores, like your Retro Duos. And even though I love it, the Retron 5's plastic is not great. I was surprised by the quality of this experience. Playmoji did not cut the usual corners for a retro console's packaging or build. I'm giving the aesthetics and build quality a 9 out of 10. It's not on the same tier as your modern consoles, but it was excellent nonetheless. As far as onboard software and presentation, right up front, the multiple logos and loading graphics are eye-catching. This is a console that's capable of 1080p output, and the simplest logo still feels like it takes advantage of that resolution. I liked the modeled background art that appears on every background. As I mentioned before, they had a picture of the Secret of Mana cart, and if you want to get me, all you got to do is reference a Squaresoft game from the Super Nintendo. I'm going to love whatever you do with it. So that was a nice touch on their part. The initial startup was maybe a touch unclear because they use Roman numerals to convey the steps for initializing the controller. Just use real numbers, devs. You don't need to impress anyone, and I'm pretty sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are all the same digits no matter what language you're speaking. The main menu for the console has 4 options. The My Collection menu with the installed and quote-unquote collected games categorized by console. I think what they mean by collected is if you ever actually stuck the game into the console, you could mark it as part of your collection quoties. And what that means is maybe it's not installed on the system, but you technically, again, quotey fingers, own the game, whatever. They had a system menu for all the options that you could pick through. They had a media menu that seems to do nothing different from My Collection. And then the last option, which we didn't really play around with much, playlists. Playlists seems to emulate your modern Netflix-style layout of a series of thematically related scrolling bars with titles to select from. I've never really loved this scattershot approach to presenting media, but I get it for movies. Here, I'm not sure it's warranted. If you're installing your own games, I don't think you need a gory and violent category or a family fun category or a greatest hits category, etc., etc., etc. I'm pretty sure I know what my options are since I was the one who installed them, so I probably would never use playlists. I'd probably just go to My Collection and look up exactly what I want to play. The menu images for each game are very well framed, with a few exceptions. For example, and I did this after I recorded the initial video, I went ahead and uploaded all of my NES and Super Nintendo games that we've looked at on the channel up to this point. The one image that they show for Super Mario World is very weirdly framed because they show them the name of the game, Super Mario World, on a yellow background with what's supposed to be a picture of Mario riding Yoshi, but because they didn't have the picture framed perfectly, all you can see of either Mario or Yoshi is in the top right corner of the image, there's just a little picture of Yoshi's feet. That's all you can see. So some pictures work really well, including the ones that you can see on the screen here, but Super Mario World was a dud, and I'm not sure what exactly was going on there. I do like that they provided details for each title, like screenshots, the developer, the publisher. They did put a release year. I know I mentioned that they didn't have an exact date for any of the games, but there was a release year on the menu there. It's kind of small and off to the side, but all of that being available is a nice touch. There's also a huge catalog of every available game for the Polymega's supported consoles, totaling almost 12,000 titles. So they did admirable work there because all of them have some kind of information to reference it from what I could tell. I do have to note that the console was shipped without the most recent updates already installed, so I experienced a serious issue using the modules before updating. Video options are robust, allowing you to add CRT-like filters, a Game Boy and a Virtual Boy filter, which I don't know why you would bother with those, and even down-resing options if you desire to play the games in 720p for some reason. Audio was far less impressive. There were no equalizer options, and even my Retron 5 features options to tweak the audio out of the box. I greatly appreciated that there are save state options with screenshots for each one, in addition to in-game save functionality, even for disc-based games where a memory card would have been needed. The console does not have a quick resume option, that I've seen. And just for comparison's sake, again, my Retron 5 does that perfectly. I've gone back to games that I hadn't played in 2-3 years, and when you put the game into the Retron 5, it loads right back up where you left it off. So I wonder if that's something that maybe they could add back in to the Polymega with an update at a later time. But as it currently stands, you take that card out or you turn off that game, it's going to start right back up from the beginning. There is the option to apply patches to games, although I couldn't find any available even with a network connection, so I am guessing that you have to find and install them on the console yourself. And although I haven't bothered with one since I was a kid, you can even apply Game Genie or Pro Replay, Action Pro Replay modifications to the games if you want to cheat your little heart out. I don't know if I'd ever really make use of those. Finally, I would be remiss if I did not point out and applaud the fact that Playmoji went out of their way to either acquire the license rights to several games that were pre-installed or tapped either their staff or the larger homebrew community to add original games to the console prior to ship. So if you had nothing to play when you first received a Polymega, there's already a selection of games preloaded for you to check out. I was both surprised and delighted that this was the case. It was a good choice on their part. They didn't have to. If you're buying this console, you're kind of expected to have old games that you want to look at, but it's a very nice touch if for some reason your collection is a little light, maybe you're starting from scratch, building up a catalog. They gave you games that you can play just right out of the box. So that was very smart. For presentation, for software and presentation, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. There were little persnickety issues that do stick out, like the Netflix-like playlist page, the lack of audio modification options, and no quick resume for games that you've played before. But the presentation is clean and fairly intuitive. The rather complete database is very impressive, and I love that they pre-installed games so you always have something to play out of the box. I think 8 out of 10 is a very good score for this one. As far as core hardware functionality, I was very impressed by the functionality overall. The modules are simple to install and remove, although I would point out that the actual ejection could be improved with a finger grip for the modules. I think they erred by designing the modules with the same simple matte shell that the core console has. There needed to be something to grab or pull or push to get the modules back off the console. It's not impossible to remove them, but it could have been better. I really like the runners that are on the base console that help you guide the module into the docking port. They work great and they keep you from damaging the unit, so those were very smart and well designed. There's only 2 USB ports on the front of the console, and I would list that as a problem if only because you need to plug in a dongle to use the wireless controller. We live in an age where USB ports are the go-to connection for everything from storage devices to keyboards, mice, controllers, and as a charging option for all those devices. So the only way to err with a USB port, besides it's not working at all, is to just not have enough of them. 2 was good, 4 would have been better. The disk slot on the core console, it includes a manual eject if for some reason the slot will not eject the disk like normal. I like that kind of forward thinking because the parts that are most likely to fail first on a console are the moving parts. PlayStation 2, I'm looking at you because my PlayStation 2 died maybe 5 years after I bought it, and I know it was because the disc reader failed. So I'm glad that they thought about that when they designed the Polymega and said we have to have a way to manually eject the disc so that if it fails, you can still get the disc out. The console has both a wired and a wireless option for your internet connection. I can certainly appreciate that flexibility as someone that lives in a 54-year-old house with absolutely no Ethernet cable run inside the walls. The wireless setup was very quick and painless, which has not always been the case, even with modern consoles. I do remember having some issues, not with the PlayStation 5, but no, what is in the PlayStation? Yeah, PlayStation 4. The Xbox One I had some issues with trying to set up wireless connection. No idea why. Overall, I give the hardware functionality an 8 out of 10. Again, More USB ports would be nice, given you need a dongle to use the wireless controller, and removing modules would be simpler if the outer shell had a grip of some kind. But hardware functions as intended, and it functions very well. For add-ons and controllers, the number of available modules covers just about the full spectrum of classic consoles. And in fact, read an article recently that they are partnering with Atari to try to get coverage for Atari games. It may not be a module, it may actually be downloadable games, but they're trying to cover even further back than the NES. I especially appreciate the recently released N64 module, as the N64 has not been the easiest console to find high-res recording options for. The modules have the same number of controller ports as the original consoles did, which kind of stinks because the NES and the Super NES had multi-tab options, and it would have been nice to be able to play the games that took advantage of them without an adapter. Again, I'll have to test, and maybe I'll mention in a video in the future whether or not a multi-tap even works with these devices. They may not. If that's the case, you're out of options, unless somehow using a wireless controller counts as an additional controller if you're already plugging two into the module. I have no idea. I haven't tested that yet. There was one huge hitch with the modules that could have caused a lot of issues if I had not found the solution quickly. None of the modules worked with the console before I connected it to the internet and downloaded what ended up being 18 updates. That was a major miss on Playmagi's part. You're selling customers on the variety of games that are playable via modules. The modules need to work out of the box. If you didn't know the updates needed to be done before you actually bought all these, and none of the modules were working, imagine sending them all back and asking for a refund. That's a nightmare in the waiting, because you would send it back, they would probably ask why you're asking for a refund, you'd say they don't work, and they'd say, well, did you update it? And then you'd have to wait for them to send it back because you realized, damn it, I didn't update the console. They could have handled that so much better. They should have had some basic functionality, even if there were options that were added as part of those updates. Make them work. That was just a bad choice on their part, or a huge misstep. The wireless controller emulates modern console controller design, especially the PlayStation 4 controller, and it has a very comfortable feel in my hands. The buttons are well balanced across the board. The face buttons are not stiff or squishy. The L and R1 shoulder buttons click, and the L and R2 triggers have a nice pull to them, very smooth. I did note while I was initially testing it out that the L1 button on my controller sticks a little bit, but it's mainly if you press it on the end closest to the center of the controller, but it has gotten better with a little bit of use. The modules all come with wired controllers, and they all have long braided cables, which I love. As someone that has had to throw away a drum pedal for a Rock Band drum kit because the wire sheathing crumbled to pieces, I know this can be a problem. Braided cables are a very smart way to avoid kinks and breakage, so I'm very happy that they included that. The wired controllers also have very well balanced D-pads and buttons, and I especially like the more modern design of the controller and thumbstick on the N64 controller. If we're being honest here, Nintendo took a very big swing with that original N64 controller, and I'm sorry, but it sucked. It was not a good design. It was very goofy. Switching between the thumbstick and the D-pad on the outside was weird and clumsy. They tried to be forward-thinking with the design, and they didn't get it right. That's why they ended up coming much closer in design over time to what the Xbox controllers looked like, because having a weird like banana grip for the one thumbstick, and then a weird banana grip for the D-pad, and then a weird banana grip for the buttons just did not work. Yeah, it was a bad controller design, so I'm glad they changed it with the Polymega's controller. Overall, I'm giving the add-ons and controllers a 7 out of 10. Again, needing to download updates to get the modules to even read the cartridges that you insert is a major issue that could have been avoided with a simple pre-install of the software updates prior to shipping. I get it. That adds work to the whole process. But this isn't a corner you should cut if it means customers that don't think to update their systems are going to return the product. That said, the modules did work admirably once they were updated, and the controllers are impressively designed for a retro console device. For storage and the installation process, this is where the Polymega really shines, in my opinion. The modular design and breadth of console coverage is very impressive, but the storage options and ability to create digital copies of the games is the real breadwinner. You can connect an external drive or a flash drive via USB. You can insert a micro SD card in the slot on the back of the console, and most impressive of all, there's a port on the bottom of the unit for an nVME drive. I love that. Installing the nVME drive was quick and easy, and although I didn't think to do it at first, there's a format option in the console menus to get an installed drive up and running very fast. If for some reason you don't want to upgrade your storage, there was about 10 gigabytes of available onboard storage for games, and most likely for saves and screenshots as well. Installing games was relatively painless. The console identifies the game using the install database and gives you options for where to store the data. Cart-based games install lightning fast, and that was kind of expected because you're not installing much data. Disk-based games were a little bit of a wait, but not that painful. My experience was roughly a 10-minute wait for a single 750 megabyte disk, so not outrageous. Modern games that you're downloading 150 gigs for, I mean, unless you have gigabit internet, you're talking probably waiting a couple of hours to play it. So putting a disk in and having the game up and running in 10 minutes, that's not too bad. Not to mention, you can just play the game right off the disk if you want. Anyway, you start installing the game, go make a sandwich while you wait, basically. And if installing games is something that you don't want to bother with, there's nothing stopping you from just playing the games with either the original cartridge or the disc. So there are options aplenty for how you play your games with this device. I give storage and installation process 10 out of 10. This was the driving force for me getting a Polymega in the first place, and I'm happy to report that it works exactly how I wanted. I can back up my own games and play the original media if I want. Options are good. They're always good. And yes, I get it. We live in a world where you could literally go online and pick up ROMs very easily. But that's not who I am, and that's not the kind of thing I'm interested in. So I never had any intention of making this channel about, oh, look at all these games that I can steal off the internet. I don't do that. After averaging the scores, I give the Polymega a 6.5 out of 10. The biggest issues I had with the whole experience were the extreme delay in receiving the console, the absolute failure by customer service to handle the communication of delays, and the necessity to install updates before any module would even function. These are serious issues that Playmoji must address immediately if they intend to stick around for any length of time. You cannot make your customers wait multiple years to receive a purchase. You aren't the wait list for a football team's season ticket package. You're not a premier motorcycle manufacturer. You're making a retro console. An admittedly complex retro console, but this isn't a hot market. Iron these issues out and I think you have a winner on your hands. All that said, once I got the system up and running, I found plenty to like. The menus are easy to use and they're intuitive. The build quality for both the console and the controllers is great. The pre-installed games, nice touch, and I love having the ability to create digital backups using a variety of storage options. It's just a shame that these high points were brought down by the front end of the experience. I really hope they do fix this. I think they made an admirable retro console device here. It's just my own experience was soured significantly by the fact that it took so long to get it and that they were unwilling to communicate how much longer I was going to have to wait. They failed miserably on that part. 6.5 out of 10. I think that is about as fair a score as I can give the console from my own experience. So as I mentioned before, we're probably going to start using this to record video for episodes in the future. I don't think it's really affected the quality of the video that I've been producing on the Retron 5, the fact that I could only get the video output to 720p. You're talking about games that were made 25, 30 years ago. In most of those cases, the graphics are not going to be dramatically improved by up-resing them. So hopefully the experience is going to be just as smooth as it had been up to this point using the Retron 5. If it isn't, I'll probably make mention of that in whatever episodes we got coming out in the future. But as I had mentioned in a note I put up on the YouTube page, I have been waiting on the Polymega to start recording my next long play, which we will get started very soon, and hopefully we'll have it up, if not in the next week or so, maybe a couple of weeks while I get everything set up. Anyway, that's going to do it for my unboxing and review of the Polymega. As always, I do appreciate each of you watching, and I will see you next time.